So Super Rugby round 12 Friday games. 2 victories to the away team. So the Jaguares beat the Chiefs 23-19 in Rotorua, and Crusaders run out 55-10 winners over the Rebels over in Melbourne. So for the first one, it was a pretty historic win for the Jaguares. Up until a week ago, they'd never beaten a New Zealand team in New Zealand. And then now that they've gone just 2 on the bounce, perfect tour of Australia and New Zealand, 4 from 4. No South African Conference team can better that record this season. None of them can even equal it because they've all either finished their tour and dropped points, or Lions are currently on tour or already dropped a game. So yeah, really excellent work from the Jaguares. Very, very impressive performance. And yeah, it's got them pointing themselves in the right direction for the end of the season. In terms of this game itself, pretty hard for the Chiefs because they had to make a few changes right up until kickoff time. Brody Retallick ended up having to play, even though he was bracketed in to have a rest this week. So came off the bench. Story of this game for the start anyway was defense, really. Both sides had kind of probing attacks, and both got penalties, decided not to take the points, and quickly realized that defense was kind of getting the upper hand. So when they got a second penalty, both sides opted for the sticks. Early score was kind of 3-3, and it was looking like being a pretty kind of ding-dong battle with not a lot of kind of slick flowing action, and it never really ended up being a classic in terms of like a skill fest, or it wasn't a 7-try to 5-try kind of excitement match, but it was a great match for other reasons. It was tight, and there was a bit of drama. I've written a note about Michael Allardyce. I wrote stupid. Why did he give away a yellow card? I think I said in my season preview of the Chiefs that he gives away far too many penalties. Some guys just can't stop themselves. Like he was at a ruck. His scrum half went for a box kick. One of the Jaguares guys jumped to try and kind of close it down. Just stuck out his arm so the player would kind of topple over it. He landed awkwardly and got a yellow card. There was nothing to be gained from it. He didn't get anywhere near charging the kick down. There was nothing to be gained from sticking your arm up there apart from just to be disruptive. And they got him in the bin. So, I mean, there was a second yellow card about a minute later to Liam Messam, collapsing the maul, which ended up giving away a penalty try, which put the Jaguares out to a 20-12 lead. This was in the second half. If someone's collapsing the maul, you can at least kind of understand the reason they're giving away the penalty. It's not guaranteed that it'll be a penalty try. It's not guaranteed that it'll be a yellow card. I'm not sure that Messam was the one who actually brought down the maul. I mean, it does seem kind of miraculous that it stopped just before the try line, as many mauls tend to just suddenly fall down. So you got to think there was some funny business going along there somewhere, but I'm not sure whether it was Messam, because that part of the maul that he went in on was kind of leaning to one side anyway. So either way, he got yellow carded, in a more understandable yellow card, even if it wasn't necessarily him that did it. But yeah, so the Jaguares went out to an 8-point lead, and then had 2 Chiefs players in the bin for almost 10 minutes. And you thought, here's your chance for the Jaguares to really, put out a bit of distance. So if the Chiefs are going to mount a comeback, it's going to be too little too late. But they couldn't do it. Something about that second yellow card seemed to really motivate the Chiefs, and the Jaguares were better than the Brumbies last week when they had a 2-man advantage, but still not quite good enough. They were doing the right things in terms of putting the ball just through the hands. So, if every man matches up, there's going to be space at the end of the line because you've got 2 more players on the field. But the Chiefs would either mark 2 men somehow, or get a turnover on the ground, or there was 1 scrum free kick, just things like that. And the Jaguares couldn't turn any of that double yellow card time into points. So yeah, when they came back to 15 men, you kind of thought, well, the momentum's now with the Chiefs. The Jaguares will be doing well to hold on here because they only had an 8-point buffer. which against the Chiefs at home is not really that much. You'd usually back the Chiefs to come back and score a couple of tries. But, yeah, they almost did. Ngatai had one disallowed by the TMO, which was probably a 50-50 call. But the situation that Orlando was fielding a kick through, and he maybe just took it over the line and then just did a kick, trying to kick it out, and it was terrible. And either way, the Chiefs, after a really WTF moment from the Jaguares, they had a try and it was turned over by the TMO. So they kind of got out of jail a bit there. But then the Jaguares really started to close the game out with a few key moments, like they stole the Chiefs line out in the 66th minute. And then the Chiefs had a line out not straight in the 73rd minute. So the Jaguares were just doing it right when they needed to. And the Chiefs were just not quite getting it right when they needed to. So if you look at all the stats, the Jaguares had kind of more possession, more territory, more run meters, better tackle rate. So I think overall, it's a fine victory for them, well deserved. It's very good for the competition. I think we've all wanted the Jaguares to kind of kick it to the next level for some time. They're showing signs of doing it now. It's still pretty early on in Mario Ledesma's kind of reign at the helm of the Jaguares. But signs so far are encouraging. Seems to have them on the right track. Guys like Boffelli are playing really well. Matera, when he's not injured, was having a really great start to the season. So yeah, it's just a great news story for Super Rugby. It's a New Zealand team which has been knocked off at home, which doesn't seem to happen very often, except to other New Zealand teams. So that's a good news story as well. And it wasn't the Blues that got knocked over, because when it's the Blues, you can always say, oh, well, it was just the Blues. But this was the Chiefs, so it's a really good scalp for the Jaguares to got. For the Chiefs, I mean, coming off the bye, perhaps there was a bit of rust because the things weren't going properly. The injury toll still heavy, so some combinations probably not quite right there. They weren't playing in Hamilton. It was their second ground, Rotorua. So there's a few factors that might be excuses, I guess, but I know the coach is not going to want to put any excuses out there. He'll probably just say they were beaten by a better team, didn't perform as well as they could. I mean, you could even see when they scored a late try to get themselves a bonus point, which is at least a consolation. But Damien McKenzie's infamous smile when he does a conversion or a penalty wasn't a very big smile when he knew that he was kicking for nothing, really. They weren't going to win the game. So they almost scored no tries. They got a try right at the end, and that would have been crazy if the Jaguares had kept the Chiefs tryless at home. So yeah, for the Jaguares, I mean, really, they could have had a bonus point win, because during that second yellow card period, one of the props just knocked it on as they had the Chiefs under the pump, and they could have during that 2 yellow card period, they could have put it out beyond, like 3 tries to 0. It wasn't to be, so I mean, they'll definitely take the win. Getting a bonus point win would have been icing on the cake, but still, a win is massive. Their playoffs hopes are looking pretty promising. They have a bye now, so the only thing I would say for them is just let's hope they don't get too ahead of themselves. I'm sure they'll keep grounded, but they've still got to keep getting the wins. I mean, a win against the Sunwolves is worth the same amount of points as a win against the Chiefs. It's still only 4 points, and they still need to win their remaining games, or at least some of them, to secure that playoff spot. So it needs to keep going. It can't just stop here. Whilst this is a great achievement, it's only another step in the road. So we'll see if they can keep going forward. For the Chiefs, they go away to the Stormers. So it's going to get pretty tough for them. That body count of guys not able to play is getting pretty high. So we'll see how they're able to manage it. The Stormers are another team who've had similar issues this season. So I think they may have a few extra guys back that the Chiefs maybe don't have in terms of numbers. So that'll make for an interesting clash next week. And it opens the New Zealand Conference up a bit. So, yeah, for South African Conference, extra pressure on the Lions now that it's no longer a 10-point gap or 11 points between the Lions and the Jaguares. The next game, 55 points to 10, the Crusaders over the Rebels. So tries to Tamani Valu, 2 to Makaleo, Goodhue, Samu, Hall, Crockett, and Matsaele. The Rebels just the 1 to Hodge, which even in itself was a bit against the run of play. Good news for the Rebels is they've got a jersey sponsor. I'm pretty sure I said in my Rebels jersey review that there was a kind of a big empty space that just seemed to be waiting for a sponsor, and they've got it, so that's cool. I guess that means interest in rugby is up in Melbourne if someone's willing to fork out some cash to be on the Rebels jersey, so that's good news. In terms of the game itself, the first 10 minutes was all the Crusaders. And then I've written another note, the first 20 minutes is all the Crusaders. At 10 minutes, it was only 5 points to 3. And the Rebels had a man in the bin. Hodge had a man was in the bin for attempting an intercept that didn't quite come off. Then the Crusaders also spent some time in the bin. Matt Todd got a yellow card for the same thing, which is fair enough. It was the same thing as what Reece Hodge did, so it would have been unfair if he hadn't been yellow carded. And Havili ended up getting a yellow card later on for kind of a bit of cynical play after a line break. So Rebels had an extra 10 minutes where the Crusaders were a man down, but unable to really convert. In fact, for the second yellow card, the Crusaders ended up scoring 3 points to the Rebels none. So yeah, it's not an ideal situation for the Rebels. If the Crusaders are going to give you some time that you can play with an extra man, it's probably time to make hay. Yeah, second half, because first half it was like 13-10 to the Crusaders at halftime. Rebels were probably lucky to be in at 13-10. But if you're still within touching distance, there's always a chance. But the second half was just absolutely one-sided. I've written things like too easy, falling off tackles, and the Crusaders were just slick. They used Tamani Valu out on that right wing just like a weapon. There was a couple of moments that I've kind of compared because Amanaki Mafi made a break at one point, and it was George Bridge, the winger, that tackled him, and he tackled him easily. And there was a similar moment where Makaleo was making a break for the Crusaders, and although he's probably a bit bigger than Mafi's still a pretty direct ball runner, and Korobidi just hardly touched him. So that was kind of the story of the game. If they had a chance, the Crusaders took it. And if the Rebels had a chance, often the Crusaders snuffed it out. Their tackle rate was about 90%. The Rebels were down in the 70s. So the Rebels had decent run meters and things like that, but the Crusaders' defense was just swarming at points. And when they would get near the Crusaders' line, it was just not happening for them. I did write that also some of the 50-50s weren't going the Rebels' way in the first half. There were sometimes where there was a loose ball and either side could have got it, and the Crusaders guy would just get there first. So, and also having Guinea go off in the 38th minute did not help. He's really a crucial player for the way they play, and losing him, hopefully it's not for an extended period, but we will see. Crusaders, once they got their foot on the throat, they don't let up. They just keep hammering down. I mean, it was 2 tries in the last 2 minutes just shows that, they're not going to stop hurting you, even at 78 or 80 minutes. Crusaders' scrum was big, really all over the Rebels. They switched up their props this week, but it wasn't enough to stop what the Crusaders were doing. Tamani Valu was just class. He really had a good run. Matsaele looked good when he came on. The Rebels just a bit soft, a bit tired. I guess that trip back from Africa was a bit tiring. I mean, there was one try that was basically, I think Hall's try. It was pretty much straight from the kickoff. Crusaders scored a try, Rebels kick it off, Crusaders right arm back the other end and score a try. It was, not good. So it's a poor run that goes on for the Rebels. They didn't score any points in the second half. I mean, I guess it was a hard one to turn around the rot. To break this losing run, it's always going to be hard against the Crusaders, but I would have thought at home you'd do better than 55 points to 10. Yeah, I don't know where this leaves them. I think their playoff spot is starting to look pretty... it's going to be pretty hard to maintain. So, yeah, for the Crusaders, it just keeps going on. It's an important bonus point because they didn't get the bonus point last week over the Brumbies when they really struggled in that second half to put things together. This week was the opposite. They were just a machine. And like I said, put the Rebels to the sword. Yeah, whoever plays them is going to find things very difficult. The Tars have got the Crusaders next week over in Canterbury, so in Christchurch. So that'll be another Aussie team trying to put one over the Crusaders. We'll see how the Tars go against the Blues first. It's like a warm up, I guess, for them. The Rebels have got the Brumbies away, so Brumbies have been poor of late. So it's going to be a battle of who can kind of turn things around at this point in the season. I did write that there was another bright spot for the Rebels is that Reece Hodge and Havili clashed heads at one point. It was a pretty sickening, almost face-on-face clash at full speed. But Reece Hodge was hardly affected, so he's got a very hard head. If nothing else, that and having a jersey sponsor are good things, but everything else was pretty bad for the Rebels. So yeah, I know Jaguares fans are pretty excited about this. There are a few guys leaving comments on the other videos where this happened. Very cool stuff, guys. I think even Chiefs fans hopefully won't begrudge you guys a win too much. I think it's, as I said, good for the comp to have a strong Jaguares team. I think all we need now is an Aussie team to really put their hands up as well. And we'll have a bit of interesting playoff action on our hands in a couple of months. And yeah, Rebels really needs to turn it around. Crusaders looking pretty hard to beat at this point. All right, guys, that's it from me, and I'll talk to you again for the Saturday games tomorrow. See you later.